religious beliefs. This is one of the reasons I love coming here. I've had the chance to learn from many different faiths. The fellowship has been a safe place for me to discover and become my spiritual self. I have learned so much about myself in the almost 13 years of attending this fellowship. I am now not only able to explain Unitarian Universalism without a card with the principles printed on it, but I also recognize myself as what I call an agnostic deist. I'm not sure what or who created the universe, but I'm fairly certain they're done messing with it. But Jesus. In the Christian faith, he is the Son of God. In Judaism, he is a rabbi and teacher. In Islam, a prophet along with Muhammad. These three faiths are very different, and yet our Unitarian Universalist faith draws on all three, along with humanism, Buddhism, paganism, and many other faiths of the world. In the official Unitarian Universalist primer, put out by the UUA, which I picked up at the mountain, it's a short little blue book, it lists the 6 sources from which we draw our faith. The 4th source says, Jewish and Christian teachings which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. The G word. It's the reason many of us are here. Some of us believe in no God, others in several gods and goddesses, and others believe in God, but maybe not the Christian God. Usually in services, a reference to the man upstairs is veiled in metaphor. He's called the Creator, Great Spirit, Spirit of Life, the interconnected web of all existence. Because of our different views on who or what is looking over us, or if anyone or anything is, it makes it hard to write a service which will have meaning for everyone. Someone is bound to disagree. It's unavoidable. When you draw from all the world's religions to make one faith as we do, disagreement will happen. That is when we must look to the 4th principle of Unitarian Universalism, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning to guide us. Is what I'm about to say going to offend someone? Cringing doesn't count. Would it make a visitor want to come back? Would it make someone who is giving the fellowship a second chance want to stay? Is it going to make a long-term member want to walk out? I've been in all of these situations, and I've discovered now it's easy to feel paranoid when writing a service. As a student teacher, I have been told I have to be a little schizophrenic. I have to think as both a teacher and a student. I have discovered it's no different when it comes to being a Unitarian Universalist. Being mindful of others is, for me, the core of being a UU. The 4th principle is the most important principle to me because without practicing it, the other principles are meaningless. We not only have a responsibility to ourselves, but to others in the congregation who are on the same journey, but not necessarily the same path, as we are. The word responsible in the 4th principle is just as important as the word free. We cannot stomp on someone else's beliefs to reach our own truth, because that truth would be based on hurt and misunderstanding. When I mentioned Jesus before, and I observed your reactions, now I want you to reflect on your own reaction. What was the first thing that popped into your head? What emotion did you feel? Is what you were feeling about the man, the name, driven by his teachings and his words? Or was it influenced by negative interactions with a more fundamentalist side of Christianity? If I had said Buddha or Muhammad, would you have reacted differently? It's something to think about. I have given a lot of thought about how I feel about Jesus and his role in the history of religion. This sermon, by the way, is not about Jesus. It is about the responsible part of a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. I have learned my attitude about Jesus and Christianity in general tends toward the positive, thinking of his teachings as valuable, not just from a Christian perspective, but also as a citizen of the world and a Unitarian Universalist, just as I think of Buddha, Muhammad, and Martin Luther King Jr. They are the same to me, teachers. I will admit I still get frustrated when someone, Christian, Jewish, atheist, pagan, it doesn't matter, tells me the way things should be, how their faith is right. I want to tell them they are wrong. The world is not black and white, right and wrong. I want to say their way of absolute thinking is the reason why people have been fighting religious wars since the beginning of time. Then I stop myself. I realize telling this person they are wrong is no different or better than what I disagree with about their statements. I have to have that schizophrenic moment when I think about the other person, how the other person would feel if I started attacking their beliefs. The golden rule comes up in many religions, including Christianity. Do I really want an argument, or do I want a discussion? This is not easy. I have no illusions about that. I won't pretend that I've managed to keep my anger from showing, or that I came out the better person in every interaction. But I know that by trying, I did not make any enemies. Once in 6th grade, not long before attending this fellowship, a girl who had social studies and band with me would ask me on a daily basis if I was saved. I think a lot of people have probably had this experience as well. I had a vague notion of what that meant and knew that for me, salvation was not something that only certain people could get, and knew but that everyone, regardless of religion or lack thereof, as in my case at the time, could achieve. Every day she would ask me this question, and every day I would give her the same answer: no. She would ask why, and I would not have a good answer for her. Then my mom decided that we would start attending the fellowship, and I suddenly had an answer. I go to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Clemson now. I'd appreciate it if you would stop asking me to convert to your religion. I have to admit, I still get a kick out of the reactions I get from people when I tell them where I go to church. But for the girl in 6th grade, it was enough that she left me alone after that. She got the message. I didn't have to argue with her about why I felt the UUs were a better fit. And though we may not have understood each other or our beliefs very well at that age, we'd come to an understanding. We would agree to disagree. Jon Stewart once said, "I disagree with you, but I'm pretty sure you're not Hitler." For those of you who don't know, Stewart hosts The Daily Show on Comedy Central, and this past October held the Rally to Restore Sanity and/or Fear with Stephen Colbert, who hosts The Colbert Report, and they did this in Washington, D.C. The point of the rally was to promote a political discourse free of exaggerated name-calling and blame games in exchange for a dialogue of reasonable disagreement. The message can be carried into our religious lives as well. The fact of the matter is that Unitarian Universalism has its roots in Christianity, the same Christianity which some of you came here to escape. We live in a part of the country where Christianity tends to take on a fundamentalist flair, but this does not mean all of Christianity is the same way, just as not all Muslims are terrorists. Not all Unitarian Universalists believe in God, but a good many do. When we make jokes within these walls about Jesus or Christianity, it prevents our congregation from feeling as if they have a voice in this community. We cannot deny our Christian heritage, just as we cannot deny that part that comes from Judaism, paganism, Islam, or any other religion. To be Unitarian Universalist is to be a little schizophrenic. Having a strong faith is a wonderful thing, but not if that faith is preventing someone else from finding their own path. Remember, the fourth principle is a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, not a free-for-all. I know many of you have strong feelings when it comes to other religions, especially Christianity. There have been times when I've sat in the sanctuary and been so angered by what I have heard coming from the pulpit or comments from people in the audience that I've wanted to walk out. I will say, I do not agree with fundamentalism in any religion, including ours. But I would not assume that everyone in that religion feels the same way. Not everyone who is Unitarian Universalism believes in gay rights. In our historic past, we have had leaders who were UUs who some people would rather not recognize, such as John C. Calhoun, who actually helped found the All Souls Unitarian Church in 1821 in Washington, D.C., along with John Quincy Adams. These two were known for their hatred of each other, and yet they somehow managed to set aside that in order to establish a liberal religious community in our nation's capital. Just as there are parts of every religion that we may not agree with, there are also parts of people we would rather not associate our faith with that we cannot ignore. Some of these are the good parts. In the end, I want to leave you with the thought that the fourth principle, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, is just as important, is just as much as about our fellow humans' search as our own. It is just as important to have the freedom to follow our own path as it is to take responsibility for the path we choose and have respect for the paths others choose, which may seem to us the wrong way, because it is not wrong, just different. So now we'll have time for conversation.